First, I will start by showing my audience. Today, I will be giving my ceremonial speech on Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton. He may not be known as well as some of the other people in history, but he had a big impact on making America. He had a large impact on making America how it was today. Through his life, he was a lawyer, soldier, statesman, and the first Secretary of Treasury. Alex was considered to be one of the many founding fathers of our great country, America. Alexander did many great things to form this country. He came from humble belongings. 2, he earned his name for himself in the military. 3, he had a great law career. And 4, finally, he had a good political and governmental career. So for my first main point, Alexander Hamilton came from humble belongings. And what I mean by this is that he was not born in a wealthy family like the other founding fathers were. He actually had a lot of struggles with money. He got his own job when he was 11 because his mom could not afford schooling. So he had to work for everything that he had at a very young age. And eventually his boss realized that he was a genius at mathematics, so he tried persuading him to go into America to get further schooling and complete his schooling and just get up there higher. So he did eventually go to America to get his schooling, and his boss even helped him pay a little bit for that. Second main point is Alex earned a name for himself in the military. He fought in many battles in the military, and the 3 main ones were Long Island, White Plains, and Yorktown. He was eventually promoted to lieutenant because George Washington, he caught George Washington's eye, so George Washington promoted him and made him his personal assistant in a way because he really liked his work ethic. So what he did for George Washington was all of his notes and all of his letters that he had to the Congress. He did a lot of that for 4 years until eventually he got tired of being in the office space, as some might say. So he got moved, or asked George Washington if he could get moved to the actual army, and that is when Yorktown came into play, and he actually led that charge. After Yorktown, he was assigned to track down Benedict Arnold, and eventually when the war was over, he went home to his wife, who just had their first kid, and eventually they ended up having 8 kids total over a span of years. My third main point is Alex had a good law career. He had a great connection with the government as being in the army with George Washington, and so with his connections, he decided that after the war, eventually he wanted to go be a lawyer, and so being in good hands with the government, they said that he didn't have to go to lawyering school. He just had to take the bar exam, so he studied for a year for that, and eventually did pass the bar exam and become a lawyer. A lot of the stuff he did as a lawyer was defending loyalists when their homes were confiscated by the rebels. And what that means is the rebels would take over their house, and when the war was over, the house would be damaged, or there'd still be people living there. So he would defend those who got their house stolen from them. And being in law, he grew closer to being in politics, so this gave him good connections. Also, he just kept gaining connections all year, and eventually got up there. Alexander Hamilton had a great political career. He had to make a stronger government and constitution. He had a big role in writing the Constitution. He was actually one of the big writers in it. He wrote over half of the Federalist Papers, and that was just a bunch of ideas that they had that they were jotting down. So eventually, after all that, and then George Washington became elected president, and because of his connections with George Washington, he was actually the first Secretary and Treasury of the United States of America. And he believed that America needed strong economic policies that would strengthen the central government, and because of his abilities in math, he had very great plans and did very well at making that happen. And eventually, in his death, he died in a gun duel with Burr because they disagreed on the election of Thomas Jefferson, and Burr just challenged him to a duel, and they eventually fought in the duel, and Alexander Hamilton lost. So, in conclusion, I want my audience to look at Alexander's life and be inspired. Alex shows that a child in poverty can later become someone who changes the face of America. He showed you can do anything. Hamilton will always be remembered as a scholar, veteran, congressman, and finally a father, not only of his 8 children, but of America. Alexander Hamilton was a huge impact of America and will be remembered as a great man because of all he did. In review, my main points were Alex came from humble belongings. Second was he earned his name in the military. Third, he had a great law career. And finally, my fourth main point is that he did well in government and did a big job at making our country. Thank you.